For many months now, we have been told that the economy is holding up just fine. National wealth is rising. Price rises are appearing to slow. Interest rates have finally started to come down. And yet, if you talk to people actually looking for work, a very different view appears. Jobs are not being created the way they used to be. Hiring feels stuck. People are sending out many, sometimes hundreds of applications only to hear nothing back. And when someone does lose a job, replacing that money has become far harder than the main news suggests. So here is the difficult question that no one seems eager to answer. If the economy is doing so well, why does the job market feel like it is quietly falling apart? This video is not about fear, and it is not about fake news guesses. It is about understanding a growing gap between the numbers we are shown and the truth many workers are already living. Because when it comes to the work market, the most risky changes rarely show up all at once. They build slowly below the surface until the facts finally catch up. What we are seeing right now is not a sudden wave of large job cuts. It is something more hidden and potentially more worrying. Hiring has slowed to a crawl. Pay growth has stopped after price rises, and key signs that in the past moved before job loss rises are already showing danger signs. By the end of this look, you will understand why job loss may rise faster than expected, why the central bank could be forced into choices it does not want to make, and why trusting main news facts right now could leave a lot of people in a risky spot. When people think about a weak job market, they usually imagine large job cuts, big news, thousands of jobs lost in one night. But that is not how work market drops typically begin, and it is not what makes the current state especially worrying. What we are dealing with right now is something quieter, a hiring stop. Companies are not necessarily firing fast, but they also are not hiring. Open roles are being taken down. Filling old roles is being delayed. Teams are being told to do more with less. And for anyone on the outside looking in, that creates a job market that feels almost impossible to enter. This matters because job loss does not rise simply when people lose jobs. It rises when people lose jobs and cannot find new ones. And in the past, the time when hiring slows fast, job loss almost always follows with a delay. One of the clearest danger signs is the loss in hiring speed. Job openings may still exist on paper, but the speed at which companies are actually bringing people on has fallen a lot. Many of these posts act more like fake spots than real chances. They stay up, but talks stop, offers go away, and choices get pushed further into the future. At the same time, pay growth has lost its strength. After adjusting for price rises, actual pay wins have flattened. That means even people who are still working are not moving forward with money. When workers feel trapped and companies feel unsure, both sides pull back. Employees stop switching jobs. Bosses stop growing the staff list. The entire work market begins to lock up. This kind of stop is risky because it does not show up clearly in the early facts. The job loss rate can stay steady for months while states underneath get worse. People remain working longer. They wait to quit. They use up their cash. And those who are let go often sit and wait for a market that never quite opens up again. In past times, this is the stage where leaders and news people often get lazy. Job cuts are small, claims are low. The news says things are slowing but not breaking. Yet, history shows that once hiring stops, it rarely restarts easily. When trust breaks, it tends to break fast. And that leads to the next problem. Because even now, the main job loss numbers may be telling us far less than we think. One of the most tricky parts of the job market of today is how calm the main job loss facts still appear. On the surface, the numbers suggest stress, but not a total crash. And that is exactly why so many people are thinking too little of what is building underneath. Job loss is what money experts call a late sign. It does not move first, it moves last. By the time it rises fast, the harm has already been done. Right now, several forces are slowing that rise and creating a fake feeling of safety. The first is the type of recent job cuts. A large share of job losses has happened in office jobs, tech, money, news, and business services where exit pay is still common. That means many workers are technically without work but not yet counted. They are living off exit pay or short-term deals, slowing their entry into main job loss facts. The second part is based on actions. People are waiting longer to file for help. Some are hopeful they will find another job fast. Others do not want to admit the state of things. And many are trying to avoid the bad feeling that comes with being officially without work. All of this moves the facts back in time. But while new job loss claims may look low, ongoing claims tell a different story. Once people do enter the system, they are staying there longer. That suggests job searches are taking more time and that hiring simply is not taking in lost workers the way it used to be. There's also a growing space between losing work and losing money. Someone may still be listed as working but having fewer hours, or they may have taken a lower paying job just to survive. From a fact view, they are not without work. From a real-world view, their money state has gotten much worse. This creates what you might call hidden job loss. People who are technically working but losing money. People who want better jobs but cannot find them. People who are one job cut away from a very different truth. History shows that this stage does not last forever. Once exit pay runs out, cash gets low, and hope fades, job loss does not slowly rise, it jumps. And when that happens, leaders are often left following rather than guiding, which raises a major question. If the main numbers are late, what signs should we be watching instead? Because some of them are already showing danger. If job loss is late on purpose, then the only way to understand where the job market is going is to look at the signs that move before the main numbers change. And when you line those up today, the message is far less comforting than the news suggests. One of the most solid signs comes from work market feelings. Specifically, the gap between jobs people think are easy to find and jobs they think are hard to get. In the past, when this gap closes fast, job loss almost always rises in the months that follow. Right now, that gap has fallen to levels last seen during times of money stress, not growth. Another danger sign is the growing bad mix between job openings and actual hiring. On paper, there are still millions of open spots, but the speed at which those jobs are being filled has dropped a lot. This tells us that the need for workers is weaker than the basic opening facts show. Bosses are careful, money is tight, choices are slower, and in many cases, companies are keeping posts up without a real plan to hire. Ongoing job loss claims add another part to the story. While new claims may stay low, the number of people staying on help longer has been going higher. That shows trouble getting back into work, a clear early sign of a failing job market. Pay facts show the same result. Regular pay may still be rising a little, but once price rises are counted, actual pay growth has flattened. For many workers, pay raises are no longer keeping up with the price of items. When pay stops, buyer trust gets weak. When trust gets weak, buying slows. And when buying slows, hiring is often the first thing companies cut. What makes this time especially weak is that these signs are moving together. In past times, you might see one or two areas get soft while others stay steady. Today, feelings, hiring, pay pressure, and job search time are all pointing in the same way. That match matters because when early signs come together, they rarely turn back without help or without harm. And this brings us to a big conflict at the heart of the current money world. If the job market is weakening this clearly below the surface, how is the economy still showing strong growth numbers? To answer that, we have to talk about national wealth and why it may be telling a story that feels very separate from daily life. On paper, the economy looks very strong. Growth has been better than expected. News stories point to solid wealth numbers and show strength. But this is where many people start to feel a gap because those numbers do not match with what is happening in the job market or in home money. That is because national wealth does not measure money health the way most people feel it. It measures work. And work can be driven by forces that are not able to last. A large part of recent growth has come from buyer spending that is not being paid for by higher pay, but by lower cash and growing loans. Credit card totals are higher, late payments are rising, and old cash buffers are mostly gone. In other words, spending is being pushed forward, not helped by long-term pay growth. This helps explain why wealth can rise while hiring stops. Companies may still be selling items, but they are doing so without growing the staff. Gains in work, machines, and cost-cutting allow firms to keep making things with fewer workers. From a large view, growth goes on. From a work view, chances dry up. This is what money experts call workless growth, and it is one of the weakest types of growth there is. Another issue is how not equal that growth has become. A small group of areas like tech, money, heavy spots, and high-profit services are holding the speed. Meanwhile, large parts of the money system that usually take in workers, especially middle pay and service roles, are under stress. There's also a time issue. National wealth looks backward. It tells us what happened last quarter. The job market, however, acts on what is expected about the future. If companies believe needs will slow, they do not wait for wealth to turn bad. They stop hiring right away. This is why trusting wealth as a safety sign can be risky. In the past, job market weakness often shows up before wealth drops. By the time growth numbers prove a slowdown, hiring has already stopped. Job loss has started to rise and leaders are trying to catch up. And leaders are watching this closely because once the job market weakens enough, the focus moves away from price rises, away from growth, news, and right toward the one thing the central bank fears most: a fast rise in job loss. That is when the story changes, and so does the rule. For the past few years, the central bank has been able to hold the money story around price rises. As long as prices were rising too fast, the task was clear. Keep rules strict, even if growth slowed. The job market in that plan was treated as a source of strength, a safety net that let the bank stay strict. That balance is starting to fail. The problem for the bank is not just that hiring has slowed. It is that the job market is weakening in ways that are hard to guide with slow rule changes. Rate cuts are meant to help loans, money use, and hiring. But when companies are unsure about the future, lower rates do not surely turn into new jobs. They turn into care. This is where the difference between early and late rate cuts becomes vital. When the bank cuts rates because price rises are slowing and growth is steady, markets tend to act well. Trust gets better, hiring can heal. But when the bank cuts rates because job loss is rising, the message is very different. It tells businesses and buyers that something has already gone wrong. Right now, the bank is trapped between those two sides. Price rises may be slowing, but they are not fully beaten. At the same time, the job market is showing signs of stress that are hard to ignore. If job loss starts to rise faster than expected, the bank may be forced to change goals fast away from price control and toward fixing harm. That is the path leaders want to avoid because once job loss speeds up, money rules lose focus, rate cuts take time to work, hiring choices wait, and trust once broken is slow to come back. There is also a trust problem. If the bank waits too long to act, it risks being seen as too slow. If it moves too early or too fast, it risks showing fear. Either path has results. This is why job market facts have become the most vital part of rule choices. Not wealth, not even price rises alone, jobs. If hiring does not heal and if late job loss starts to show in the facts, the bank may have little choice but to cut rates more than markets now expect. Not because things are getting better, but because they are getting worse. And when rules shift under stress, the effects do not stay only in money markets. They flow right into the real money world. Which brings us to what all of this looks like outside of charts and guesses, where people actually live, work, and spend. While money talks often stay focused on rates and wealth, the real money world tells its story in quiet ways through shop closings, less service, and the slow loss of daily safety. Across the land, shop and service firms have been pulling back. Stores are closing at a speed that would have been impossible to imagine 10 years ago, outside of a bad time. And while web shopping and new buyer habits are part of that story, they do not explain the whole view. What is happening is a need problem. Buyers are becoming pickier. Extra spending is under stress. And when people feel unsure about their jobs or money, they do not cut spending all at once. They pull back slowly, part by part. That slow retreat is often hidden in national facts, but it is very bad for firms running on low profit. Shop and service jobs have in the past acted as a safety net for the work market. When high-pay areas slow down, these firms usually keep hiring, but this time they are facing stress too. Rising costs, weaker foot traffic, and low profit means fewer hours, fewer spots, and less freedom. There is also a quality problem. Even when jobs are open, they often do not pay enough to keep up with the price of items. That creates a strange puzzle. People are working but still struggling for money. From the outside, the job market looks fine. From the inside, it feels weak. Service quality has dropped as well. Firms are running with fewer workers. As the feeling gets worse, buyers pull back more, making the loop stronger. This cycle matters because it hits jobs directly. When sales get soft, the first act is not usually large job cuts. It is fewer hours, hiring stops, and worker loss. Over time, that turns into job losses. And by the time it shows clearly in job loss facts, the harm has already spread. What makes this stage especially risky is that it is made normal. People get used to fewer options, longer waits, and less service. Businesses adapt to lower expectations, but adaptation does not mean recovery. It means endurance. And endurance has limits, especially when another major stress spot enters the picture. Because for many workers, job safety is not just about income anymore. It is about getting medical help. For many workers in this country, a job is more than a check. It is a support for health. And when the job market gets weak, that link becomes one of the most strong and upsetting powers in the money system. Job-based health plans still cover most working people. That means job loss does not just risk money, it risks getting medical care. And even for those who keep working, the cost of staying covered has been rising steadily. Monthly costs are higher, upfront costs are larger, and out-of-pocket costs are rising. For many homes, healthcare has become a set cost that fights with rent, food, and travel. When pay stops and costs rise, that stress does not go away, it builds up. This creates what could be called a scare-based money system. People stay in jobs they do not like because they cannot afford to lose healthcare. They avoid job changes, starting a business, or moving because the risk feels too high. Others take on extra hours or second jobs not to get ahead but simply to keep their help. Work power falls, moving slows down, and the job market becomes less active. When job cuts do occur, the consequences are immediate. Old plan costs can be too high. Market plans often come with high upfront costs that leave people without real help. Many wait to get care, skip meds, or avoid help entirely. Those choices may lower short-term costs, but they increase long-term risk for both homes and the healthcare system. Medical debt remains one of the main reasons for personal money trouble. And unlike other types of debt, it is often not planned and cannot be avoided. That makes it especially harmful during times of job market weakness. The mental cost matters too. Job worry combined with health worry produces long-term stress, and stress is not just a personal issue. It has money results. It hits health, job work, and buyer actions. When fear becomes a driving force, people do not spend. They do not help themselves grow. They do not take risks. And money systems built on care tend to slow even without an official bad time, which brings us to the final question. If all these pressures are building at once, what happens next? Not guesses, not fear, but real views and what they mean. At this stage, the most vital thing to know is that the economy is not heading toward one clear result. It is moving through a set of possible paths, and the job market will decide which one becomes truth. In the best case, hiring stays steady. Job cuts remain small. Pay growth slowly gains back ground as price rises slow. Unemployment rises, but only modestly, and the economy avoids a deeper downturn. That outcome is possible, but it depends on confidence returning quickly, something the data has not clearly shown yet. A more likely path is a work-based drop. Hiring stays stuck, exit pay buffers run out, and late job loss finally shows in the numbers. Buyer spending gets weaker, and firms act to stay safe. In that world, job loss does not slowly rise. It moves faster than expected. There is also a third path that often gets missed. Long, slow times. Not a big crash, but a long time where jobs are harder to find, pay struggles to keep up, and money worry becomes normal. In the past, that is one of the most harmful results because it quietly kills safety without a clear break. The main point is this. The job market is weaker below the surface than the news says. The facts are late. And by the time job loss becomes clear, the time to change is usually gone. This is not about fear. It is about knowing the truth. Because in times like this, the people who know what is happening early are the ones who are best placed to change with money, work, and mind. If this look helped you see the whole story, consider joining us. Staying informed right now is not about fear. It is about not being surprised when the story finally shifts.